My name is Alex, I'm 19 and I run a brand consulting agency. I now know that the personal brand is the most powerful marketing tool that you can leverage to grow your online coaching and consulting business in 2026. I didn't always think this way. For the longest time, I downplayed the importance of designing and maintaining a powerful brand image. I used to say that entrepreneurs who cared too much about their image and their branding were kind of retarded and wasting their time and resources. So what changed? Well, let's get right into it. So first, of course, to give you some context, about 2 years ago, I was a freelance copywriter, and I lived and breathed classic direct response marketing. Essentially, it's just anything that's designed to drive an immediate, measurable action. So it's got like a CTA, and that's the entire point. That is literally it. This is, of course, distinguished from brand marketing, which is not necessarily designed to drive an immediate action, but more so to fulfill a longer term purpose, so setting an image, for instance. Now, of course, if you've been around for a while, you may or may not have been an avid reader of my newsletter, which I used to mail every single day. Now, this is inaccessible right now. You can't sign up anywhere, but those who know, you know. If you were a subscriber, then you will know that I did not think very much of branding at all. Let me explain. Now, of course, to make sure that we've got the terms right, we refer to branding as a particular identity or image regarded as an asset. Essentially, thoughts and feelings associated with you and with your offer. My old thesis basically used to be this: brand image is something that you get created after customers have a positive experience with your offer. Only then do you have the permission to command the perception of your offer in the future. And I would always say, above all else, you should be focused on informing the prospect about the offer. That means the specific information, what's included, what are the benefits. That is what all of your content should be focused on. Now, while I was preparing for this video, I actually found a passage from a previous issue that I mailed to my list. It sums up my thoughts on branding previously quite well. Somewhere along the line, most big brands seem to adopt the view that they were too good for using proven principles that help sell more stuff, that is, direct response principles, and they've instead decided to focus on the whole brand image thing. And they think that approaching everything like public relations to try and set this image is what's going to develop long-term customer loyalty. But I would say it doesn't, because loyalty actually comes from the consumers buying the thing that you're selling and having a good experience, and then wanting to come back and either buy more of the thing or buy into an ascension or an upsell. Now, believe it or not, but this perspective that I used to have actually was once the norm. In fact, talk of branding in any way would have gotten you absolutely laughed out of the room in classic marketer circles. Branding used to be dismissed as this kind of fluffy term because you couldn't track it. It was an elusive concept. Unlike the scientific advertising method developed by Claude Hopkins and stuff, you couldn't measure branding, so it was kind of useless. That's what people thought. Until this guy, Peter Montoya, came along. He basically just dropped a handful of books around the early 2000s, and he got a lot of pushback. And he's also responsible for laying the foundations of what we understand to be personal branding, which we talk about pretty much every single day today. So of course, this new perspective actually reframes the importance of branding as something that we really look at in our business. This view that I used to have, it's very important that your offer and your service delivery is of a high standard, because if it's not, then all of the foundations that you lay with work on your brand will be a complete waste of time. But of course, this perspective is only half the story. To be fair to the old me, what I was getting at was extremely important for paid traffic. So this is because when you're running ads on paid traffic, nobody has ever heard of you. You are trying to deal with a cold audience, and you have no digital real estate to fall back on. And what I mean by that is essentially, when people go on your social media profile and you see that there's loads and loads of content that you've been putting up over time, that is essentially you own a space of the internet, so hence the real estate analogy. And of course, with all of that content, that implies that you have time on problem. You've been in the space for a while, so of course you probably have a degree of credibility. And also because the goal is to elicit a direct response right there and then. Because if you don't, then your ad is going to fade into obscurity, into the feed, never to be seen again, and you have lost the potential sale. However, here's the thing. When it comes to organic content, well, the rules are very, very different. Allow me to explain. When we're dealing with organic content, the attention that you get actually gets earned and it compounds over time. You're able to grow an active audience. It's not rented like it is when you have paid space. And of course, you have digital real estate to fall back on. And also, there's no real rush to elicit direct response. The thing is, when a prospect is in, they're in, and as long as they remain an active part of your audience, if they don't buy today, they might buy tomorrow, or the day after, or next week, next month. but sooner or later they will surely buy. And so when it comes to the topic of personal branding, well, intentional personal branding is simply taking advantage of these perks that you get with organic content that you don't get when dealing with paid traffic. And I think that there is really one main reason why organic is definitely shining right now. And no, it's not for any of the reasons that you may think. It is not because the all-industry average for paid ads on just Meta alone has doubled in the last 2 years. It is not because organic is free to post or it's got a low barrier to entry and you're not competing with tons and tons of massive media buyers. In fact, you are paying for organic either with your time, or if you've actually got more of a production setup, then you are dealing with monetary investment as well. And it's not because organic allows for you to give free value to nurture your leads. Nobody cares about free value in a world where Google and AI exist, which allows pretty much anybody to just regurgitate information and become a facts merchant instead of somebody that's actually displaying a level of competence. No. So, let me describe organic like you have never heard it described before. And I promise you, this is going to absolutely stick with you. This analogy that I'm about to give you for how organic content really works should help you finally answer exactly why someone like Daniel Dalen can sell out of his glasses in like literally a couple of days, despite the fact he uses 0 calls to action in his content. It should help explain exactly why Alex Hormozi can sell 2.9 million copies of a book in just 1 day and break the record for biggest non-fiction book launch ever. It should explain exactly why someone like Ben Settle can sell books for thousands of dollars each, individual books for thousands each, to his email list, and nobody bats an eye. In fact, they love it. And it should also help explain why someone like Nero Knowledge can literally break his own app on the first day of launching because so many people rushed to download it. Organic content, at its core, is essentially your world or ecosystem that you are building. So I've used this image here just from Narnia, which is essentially, it's like a door, and on the other side of the door is that like fantasy world. That is your brand. That is your ecosystem. And it's not just me that's got onto this. In fact, I heard John Carlton, the great A-list copywriter, say on a podcast a while ago that it's essentially the way that you win is you walk people through the door into your world and you keep them there. And that is essentially the power that's in organic. And I believe also I've heard Ben Settle talk about the concept of world building for business. Again, so I'm not the only clever person that has come to this conclusion. Ultimately, organic content is not about giving value to nurture leads. It is about your story. That is how people connect with you. I still don't even know who the hell actually said this first, because I've been unable to actually track down a source. But everyone likes to say this thing these days: people buy from people. And yes, it's true. And of course, when you are somebody that just regurgitates information, you are not really a distinguished person. Or we could say a better way to put this is actually people buy from people with a story. And there's 2 main reasons why. First of all, it taps into exactly what the great Chicago ad exec Leo Burnett used to talk about, which is this concept of friendly familiarity. Essentially, it dumbs down to you are always going to choose the person that you know over the person that you don't. If you're commuting to work every single day and you have a conversation with a plumber, well, odds are if you have a problem with your house's plumbing, you're going to go to that guy first because you know him. This is also the exact same reason why if I have a problem with my finance or my legal stuff, well, I have a friend who works in finance and I've known him for like 10 years because I went through all of secondary school with him. So naturally, when I have issues there, I go and consult him because of friendly familiarity. I don't try and look for anybody else before going to them first, because you're always going to choose the person that you know over the person that you don't. So of course we can say for today's world, well, recurring exposure creates friendly parasocial familiarity. For instance, like, I don't know Daniel Dalen personally, I've never met him in real life yet, but I feel like I know him because I've seen so much of his content. Same deal for you. And also the second reason why is simply because people connect through stories. Stories are older than the written languages that we use today, and also because here I've put acta non verba, which basically is just Latin for deeds, not words. That's where the expression that you hear all the time, actions speak louder than words, come from. I don't even know why I put this here. I think I just put this here to sound smart, to be honest. But essentially, a story is going to tell you a lot more than just words are about somebody. If I give you a piece of advice, okay, don't do cold outreach, you'll be like, yeah, whatever. But if I tell you, don't do cold outreach because I made 0 money because I was relying on cold outreach instead of actually creating a long-lasting personal brand, then you'll be like, oh, this guy's actually got a tale behind why he's giving the advice. So the advice that you give only means something if you've got a story backing it. And so at the end of the day, What I am getting at here is to have people spend time with you in your world, that is your personal brand. And when they're spending time with your story, the values that you hold, your mission that you're currently on, the aesthetic direction that you lean towards, the vibes that you create, and just the language, like the everyday words that you use. So someone like Elisha Long, where he goes on about, ride the tiger, or PD as hell, or just random silly things like that. Or Ben Settle with his guru and FAP GPT. It's like slang terms that you have in communities. So even down to those very small details, it all creates depth, and ultimately that is where the true leverage in organic content lies. And that is exactly why I was wrong for dismissing personal branding for the longest time. And I'm going to leave you with this quote that I heard from a guy I know who shoots for a lot of luxury brands and stuff in Korea. And he basically said this: your skills are what get your foot in the door by showing that you're good at something, but your brand is what is going to get you selected every time. If you choose between a coat that is just there and a coat who actually has a story behind it, you are always going to choose the one with the story. And so it is your story, your brand, that gets you selected every single time. Doesn't matter if you're the best in the world at what you do. If you don't have a story, then your market is going to go to whoever actually has that story. And with that, I'll close out. Thank you very much for getting all the way to the end of this video. I hope you found this super insightful and valuable. Now, if what we've been talking about today has really interested you, you can check down the link in the description, see what me and my company are about. It's highly possible that me and you will be a great fit for working together. And other than that, I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.